Okay, so this is my first video for this channel. Basically I do a bit of photography and a bit of Photoshop in my spare time, and this image here I took on my phone while I was skiing in France. I like the way that the wind had blown the snow into the into the rock, creating a texture. So this isn't a tutorial video, it's just me working in Photoshop and trying to make this image look as good as it can. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this pole here and a little bit of string on it. And to do that I'm just using content aware fill, which does a pretty good job. I just want to get rid of these little diddy bits of rock sticking through the snow, just to clean it up, holding the shift key to add to the selection. Okay, pretty good. I want to get rid of these bits on the side, shift key. Okay, and I'm not that keen on this bit here, so let's get rid of that as well. Fill that in. Yeah, not perfect, but it'll do. Okay, so I want to punch this out a bit, and first thing I'm going to try is make it 16-bit so that we don't get any banding when we do work on it. And I'm going to have a go with HDR Toning, which immediately punches it out, smooth the edges. And we're getting a bit burnt out there, so let's bring the exposure down a wee bit. And if you bring the gamma down, it brings up the contrast. You can see all the details coming through. Let's bring that down a tiny bit. Just a case of fiddling till you're happy with the look. A little bit of extra detail just to zing out the rock, and I'm trying not to clip any of the white bits in here. If we just compare that to what we had, I think that's pretty cool. Okay. When I first saw this shot I thought I wanted to make it black and white. It basically is black and white, but when I put a black and white on it, it kind of ruins it for me. I think I like the kind of blue tones that it comes with, so I'm going to leave that. What I do want to do is get rid of a little bit of this graininess that's come through from a pretty poor quality phone camera, really. It's just a cheap LG camera. So what I'm going to do is go filter, camera raw, and I'm going to use the noise reduction. Just bring this up pretty much to the top. Knock down the detail a little bit. And as you can see, that loses all the detail in the rock, but we can mend that in a sec. So if I zoom in, excuse me, you can see the detail going. However, the sky is nice and clear of grain now. So what I should have done was make a copy of the original, but what I can do is go Control A, Control Copy, go back in history before we did the camera raw, Control V, and now we've got the noise reduced version on top. So what we'll do is just draw a little mask around where we want to keep the detail. Add the mask to the layer, and that will be the wrong way around, so unlock them, Control I to invert the mask. Now if we zoom in, you can see the grainy detail. I'm not sure if you'll see it on the screen capture, but this is smooth and this is grainy. So what we need to do is blur that mask, Gaussian blur. That looks about right, maybe a little bit more. Okie dokie. Okay. Right, well, I'm pretty happy with that, really. So I'm going to flatten it down. And if you look at the original image out the camera and the new version, just punched it out a bit. So, a couple of last touches. I've got Nik software from Google installed, and I like to use the sharpeners in here. I think they're the best ones. So on the original full-size image, we're going to do some pre-sharpening. Just to lose that slight defocus you get at full res. Okay, pretty happy with that. Render that. Okay, so that is the full res image. Let's flatten that down. So you'd store that and save that to print. Now if you want to use it as like a, say a desktop background or something like that, or what I do is I tend to post my images to Facebook. I would never do it at this size, so this is 3000 or so across, so that's quite big for the internet. So what I'll do is make a new screen res image. I'll then scale my full res to the same size, but the height is going to be slightly off. So what I'll do is I'll paste that, Control V, into my screen res image. Now the other little trick that I want to do with this is I just want to fractionally accentuate this rock a little bit. So what I've done is I've pasted it in, dragged it down a bit. I'm going to draw a selection down to there because I don't want to change this bit. Control T, and I'm just going to pull that up a little bit. So it's literally just stretched it out a tiny bit. Then I can just adjust the composition until I'm happy. I'm pretty happy with that. Kind of want it a little bit that way, so I might just look at stretching this a tiny bit just to see what happens. Might get away with it. You can see it slightly. I'm pretty happy with that. That'll be okay. So what I'm going to do now is just add a bit of output sharpener, because when we shrunk the image, that does a bit of blurring between the pixels as it shrinks it down. So a little bit more sharpening, not too much. That looks pretty good. Okay. Well, I think that's kind of it. Flatten that down. File. Export. Save for web. And that's coming in at under 0.5 MB, so that's pretty good at 75 JPEG quality. So I'm going to save that out, put it on my desktop and post it to my Facebook. That's it.